I'm here to talk a little bit about playing Magic. Since this is an experimental judge conference, I will not be talking about judging. This is a presentation about playing Magic only. Um, Turn down the mic volume. I don't know how to do that. User settings, voice and video, output volume, down. Okay. I turned down the mic volume. Does it work better? Is it better? Okay. Um, so, I'm going to talk about playing Magic, and I have some scenarios that I would like to your participation with, and we're going to have some discussion about Magic plays. Um, I will not be talking about judging. I will not be talking about policy, rules, or anything like that. So if your question is related to like how this relates to judging, um, that is not the presentation that I am going to answer the question. So like it's not the intent of this presentation is that all of you can like get some concepts to use in your Magic game when you're playing. So like you kind of improve your win rates. So the first thing I want to talk about is values. Pawns worth 1, knight and bishops are 3, and rook are 5, and queen is 10. Usually you want to trade pieces if you're ahead, and you don't want to be trading if you're behind. Magic. Okay. So, in Magic, it's much harder to assign value to our cards because the values of those cards are constantly changing throughout the game. And unless you're playing Bughouse, like in chess, the pieces don't drop on the board, and that's one of the things that make Magic so much more complicated. Like the cards that are being dropped on the board at any point in time can drastically change the values of the cards already in play. So context is very important when you're talking about Magic and when you're talking about the card values of like each card you have. So for example, in this scenario, you have a Pharaoh Crawler, which is a 1/3, that when it dies, draw a card. Currently doesn't have much value, like you're not doing a lot with it. So should you chump block here? Like who here thinks that Pharaoh Crawler should be used to chump block the Nesting Courser? Okay, Peter. Why yes? Yeah, card draw is is interesting, but and honestly, this cat is not doing much. So, but at the same time, we have 20 to life. We have a lot of cards, and as Jamie pointed out, we have a planeswalker in our hand. So right now, the utility or the value of this card is gain 3 life and draw a card, right? But in the future, this cat can be preserved 3 loyalty and draw a card. And preserving 3 loyalty out of Jace has a lot higher value than gaining 3 life. Like usually, if you're a healthy life total, you would rather have more loyalty on your planeswalkers than having more life. Um, so life is a resource, and loyalty counters are a resource. Usually, loyalty counters are a better resource than life if you're not dying, right? So in most cases, you want to have like more loyalty, and in this case, also you don't need to draw cards, right? Because you already have Unsummon, you have Colossal Dreadball. That's in every Magic set. Um, like you can play everything in your hand in this current board, so you don't need to draw a card right now. If you had 0 life, or sorry, if you had 0 cards, then there's an argument for blocking. If you had a lower life total, a much lower life total, there's an argument for blocking. But in this case, like the value of the card is going to be much higher if we wait a turn to block. Okay. So if we're talking about blocking, we should also be talking about trading. I'm going to give you like 10 seconds to see this list. So you're playing this deck, Rakdos deck, against Mono right? Bye bye, cat. Sorry, Wizards just banned you. I hope you rest in peace now, because, I mean, you're getting sacked a lot, bro. So, I hope you have a good time resting. Um, so you're playing this deck, and this is your situation, right? You're playing against Mono Green. Your opponent's super lucky. They top deck Questing Beast. They tap for Forest, play it, attack. So, should you block Questing Beast, sacrifice Fable Passage, and trade cards? The hands are empty. No player has cards in hands. Kill the beast! Yeah. Yeah, so essentially, like, this situation is not good for your devil, right? Because what's the best thing you can top deck? It's pretty much Woe Strider, and then the trade is going to present itself again. Sure, you can trade for Woe Strider, you can preserve the devil, but the the devil represents a lot of potential damage, and the devil is like a corner piece of the deck. Like, devil's a cornerstone, is very strong, but in this particular board state, devil is just a 3/3, right? Its text on this particular board state um, don't represent a lot. Like, sure, your best case scenario here is to draw, like, if you want 2 draws, you can draw like Calder's Familiar and Witch's Oven, and you still can't block Question Beast. You still can't like trade with it like for nothing. So in this particular scenario, I'm all in favor for trading cards because, like, what's your alternative? You draw, you can't attack because if you attack, they just take, and you're going to take 4 more next turn. Um, so you're very behind here if you don't trade. Yeah, I feel like trading is the best in this scenario. Now, this situation is much better, right? Should you trade in this situation? Yeah, no, right? What's their clock? They're hitting for... Nice, Toby. So essentially, they're dealing 3 a turn because each turn you can gain a life with the cat, and you're also dealing 3 a turn, right? So our clock is the same. Our future draws are synergistic, and we can set up to kill Question Beast if we draw pretty much anything other than like a non-favorable passage land. We have 3 damage with the cat oven to Question Beast. So essentially, we sack the cat in their end step. Then in our turn, we can like bring the cat back 1 damage. Loop the cat, that's 2 damage. And then we sack something like Fable Passage or like a token with Woe Strider. That's 4 damage. We can kill Question Beast and put a lot of pressure on our opponents. Like, this situation is much better to not trade than is to trade. And since you're talking about like trading, we have to talk about block. For example, this situation, your opponent had attacked you with 3 2/2s. You ate one of the 2/2s, and now you're down to 8 life. You have a 3/3 flyer. They have nothing. You have nothing in hand. Should you attack with your flyer or not? I mean, if they have overrun next turn, if they draw overrun, you're dead regardless, right? Or Titanic growth, because like they can pump whatever the angel is blocking, so you just die. Yeah, in a vacuum, always attack. I mean, sometimes red mages have to know when they need to hold back. Like, it's the question, right? Do you build the creature or do you build the face? It depends. What clock are they presenting? What clock are you presenting? Sometimes building the face is better, or building the creature is better. Yeah, so as pretty much everyone realized, they have a 2-turn clock, so you might as well just hold back, right? Because you're not winning this race. So when you're deciding whether or not to attack or block, thinking about like your clock. How fast are you winning the game, and how fast are you losing the game? So this is a very important concept, and yes, this is a very easy scenario to explain this concept, but it changes a lot to figure out like what's your clock, what's your opponent's clock, and like constantly thinking about their clock or the clock is very important in a game, because like it dictates whether or not you should attack, should block, and like yeah. So this is a much better scenario for us. You have a Doomblade, you have a 3/3 flying lifelink creature, so yeah, you should attack, right? There's no reason to block. But what should you do with this Doomblade? Yeah, I like that. I like holding Doomblade. Yeah. So this is a nice example of like good of question beast mana. Yeah. So holding Doomblade is great, and like in the previous scenario, if you had Doomblade in hand, you could argue to attack and then kill one of their creatures. Like in the previous scenario where your creature doesn't have lifelink, you could argue to kill the bear. But in this scenario, it's much better to hold Doomblade and attack. You're winning this game as it is. So like they don't have enough pressure on you as you do have pressure on them. And if they play a reach creature, you need to clear your way. If they play a huge creature, you need to clear your way. If they play like a pump spell that fights your creature, Doomblade is going to be great. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like the scenarios that I'm presenting are fairly easy. I hope they get better. Cheeto killed the bear. No. Now, this is interesting. Bluffing magic. So, bluffing is basically not necessarily lying, but trying to represent something that you may not have. And this happens a lot in Magic. I don't know how many of you watched the Pro Tour finals where we had a lot of variations of Wagner's Reclamation. So it was a very diverse meta game, that PT finals. It was Growth Pyro deck, another variation of Growth Pyro deck, another variation of Growth Pyro deck. So it was very, very interesting to watch. So one thing you could see, like the pro players were doing, where they would set up stops in their turn, in their opponent's turn, and they would do absolutely nothing. In fact, their hand was full of counter spells, was full of reactive magic. So they had nothing to do. And yet, they set up stops in Magic Arena on their turn and their opponent's turn. So why are they setting up those stops? Essentially, they were trying to bluff. They had Shark Typhoon, right? This Magic Arena is weird when it comes to priority. Makes your opponent think that you have something. So Magic Arena gives you priority whenever you can do something, and it does it when you can't. So if the game advances very fast, your opponent knows that you don't have anything. If you hold full control, it becomes too obvious because it takes a long time to click through everything. So setting up the stops is the way to not become too obvious with full control, and still like pausing for like some microseconds. I don't know, seconds, something very small that makes your opponent think what's going on, why you have those stops. Essentially, you're not giving up in giving away information that Arena gives it freely for you, you know. And here's a real life example. If you're playing like tabletop Magic, I don't know what timeline are we in, but imagine in a timeline with no COVID-19 that we can play tabletop Magic, and it's great. And you're playing tabletop Magic, you're attacking, you have mana open, and like you go to damage, and your opponent says, take 6. You say, hold on, yeah, 6 is fine. So you don't need to take a lot of time. You know, you don't need to hold on, thinking, yeah, 6 is fine. Yeah, just say, hold on, yeah, 6 is fine. That will make your opponent think you have something, right? Or at least they will hesitate when they attack or when they block in the future turn that it may have a bug spell, right? Because you're essentially asking for priority, and they're thinking, why my opponent's asking for a priority, right? They must have something, but maybe you don't. So essentially, this is a way of not giving up or not giving away information. Is essentially you request priority to at least pretend you can do something. So here's a mono red deck list, right? With Lots of red creatures, attack, cause damage, good stuff. And here's the board state, right? It doesn't matter what you have in your hand. It just matters that what you can have. So in this situation, you could have a few different things. Should you attack? So I mean, let's assume you have, for example, what's the name? Light up the stage, right? I mean, you would want to attack in this position, and let's suppose you have shock and light up the stage. If you clear away with shock, you can't profitably like cast light up stage and like play a land out of it. So I mean, there's a situation where you can have Rimrock Knight, and that just kills the priest, right? So if you attack, what can your opponent think of this attack? Your opponent can think that you have either Rimrock Knight or that you want to cast light up the stage, right? So they essentially think if it's worth calling you on it, right? Because if they block and you have Rimrock Knight, then you can kill the priest with the pump spell, and they can't play, for example, Act of Treason or playing the Firstborn profitably. So, because they won't have the priest to sacrifice their creature. In this situation, I don't think the priest player is blocking, because priest is very valuable in the sack deck, and they don't want to risk it. You having Rimrock Knight and getting rid of their priest. So, like, if you have something like light up the stage, you can attack. You probably don't block. You can probably play light up the stage. So this, yeah, you're only doing 1 damage, but you're dealing a damage, right? And in a red deck, every point of damage matters. So in this particular situation, I would probably attack 95% of the time, regardless of what I have in my hand. And I believe my opponent would not block this attack. valuable in the sacrifice deck that is not worth taking the chance. Like, worst case scenario, I attack, they block, I shock. Like, right, so, yeah. Yeah. Now, this one is different, right? Imagine this creature has a counter on it. Like, should you attack? So let me rephrase the question here. Should you attack regardless? Yeah, it is pretty much a no, right? Because so why is this a no? Yeah, Troll has a counter. Sorry, it was a Troll should have a counter. It should be a 3/3. Sorry, it's not represented in the board state. Yeah. So in this situation, I would not attack regardless. If I have removal spell, I might attack to kill the troll, but it's still not very good. So essentially, from the green player's perspective, the troll is spendable. So they are going to block in this situation, right? Because from their perspective, they block, you play a shock, or you play a Ren Rock Knight, you're losing tempo, and they're losing a spendable creature. So they can play another spendable creature, or they can play another creature, and they will know, like, that you have one less chance of a removal spell or a combat trick. Also, you don't develop your board, right? So if you attack and they block and you play a bump spell or a shock, you're not playing a steam cannon, you're not playing rubber, you're not playing light up the stage, so you're not developing your board. They get tempo out of a card that is very spendable. Yeah. So, yeah, in this situation, like, unless your plan is to, like, champion and shock, I unless you want to kill the troll, I wouldn't attack. Just because they are 99% blocking. Like, I'm assuming a reasonable player on the other side, they're probably blocking this prevention. Yeah. So, anyone has any questions about like bluffing, any situation that they would like to discuss? Okay. Let's move to the final part, which is sideboarding. Now, I know this deck is not a thing. It's not legal. But let's suppose it is. Let's suppose you can play with this beauty. And you can copy your stuff infinite times. And you're playing against Jund. Jund is a deck with lots of traits, right? All they want to do is trade. And grind out resources and eventually play a big Tarmogoyf and win the game. How would you sideboard in this matchup? Here's the screen for Splendid Twin. What do you bring in? What do you take out? So, what do you think they are bringing in against you? They could be next leveling you, but I mean, how would they realistically next level sideboard this, right? So, I mean, it's an option that they don't sideboard. Still, their deck is full of removal, right? Crop Digger's Cage is useless against you. Ashiok is not very good against you. Dragon's Claw is not very good against you. So, like, probably an average Jund player would bring in like the Doomblades, the Doxies. Perhaps a better Jund player would just bring in Doxies. It's like the Jund list is pretty good at stopping combo. Like has a lot of disruption, especially like creature-based combos. It has a lot of disruption, like hand disruption and like creature removal. So like the jump list is not doing a lot of sideboarding, probably. But you can change your plan. You can transform your deck, and this is a thing that like it's sometimes very useful to have a transformational plan in your sideboard to change your angle of attack. Essentially, perhaps the matchup is not good for you, or maybe they have a lot of interaction. But you have to pick your spots when you want to change your angle of attack, because it's not always a good idea, right? In this particular matchup, the way I would sideboard is this. I would take out Splinter Twins, take out 2 Exarch, bring in Shackles, Tyrannos, Jace, and Blood Moon. Blood Moon is probably the worst of the 4 of the 6 that I'm bringing in, but it's still better than a 1/4 that, like, at best attacks Tarmogoyf. Yeah, Exarch doesn't do much. It's not good at replying for pressure. Yeah. It's about winning. Yeah. So, in this situation, I would sideboard like this, and there's a lot of examples where like transformational sideboards come. Another example, I don't know if you remember, in Pro Tour Arrows, I think, or Pro Tour something when Return to Ravnica was legal. Ivan Flock won with a blue-white deck that essentially didn't have any win conditions. To not say the deck didn't have any win conditions in game 1 is maybe a lie. It had Mutavault, he had Jace Ultimate to take your opponent's win condition, and it had Elixir of Immortality to prevent yourself from milling out and let the opponents die from decking. So it was a very annoying control deck. It was pretty good at holding the fort. But it had a problem. The games took a lot to close out. And the sideboard plan was pretty interesting because he couldn't transform into a tempo deck and it stopped being so controlling. So, for example, if you lose game 1, you want to transform into, yeah, I mean, the deck would sideboard into something even more like grindy and even more pedantic if it won game one. But if it passed like 30 minutes, lost game one, then it would sideboard into creatures to attack, and try to win the game 2 and 3, because that was their best strategy. Sometimes your sideboard plan wants to be different than your main deck plan, because you just want to change how you play depending on the matchup and depending on how they're sideboarding against you. So transformation is a possible plan to go. So let's say, and now we're not talking about transformation anymore. Let's talk about one of the most common mistakes that people make when sideboarding. And I want to give you an example with this deck against Rest in Peace Affinity. Again, sorry, not so cool. So let's suppose you're playing Boros Barn against Affinity. How would you sideboard in this matchup? And yes, this can change on the play, on the draw. But usually, how would you sideboard? Yeah, so I didn't say anything after sideboarding because I don't want to give away where what's the point of this scenario. But yeah, sorry, it was. So the arguments for each card. Back to exile. Yeah, they have creatures. Back to exile removes creatures. Cool. Dragon's Claw. Useless. Like, their deck is not entirely red, so it's not too much. For Firewalker. Sure, they have some red spells and they have some red removal, but do you really want to be dealing 1 damage? No. Like, creatures are better. Scope Crack. Yeah, maybe this is fine against Cranial Plating and X Champion. I like Scope Crack to ambush block or to ambush attack into. Sorry, you can't ambush block. Ambush attack into X Champions and block. You Scope Crack them. Rest in Peace prevents Ravager from modular, and Smash to Smitterness is a removal spell that deals damage. Right? So there's an argument for every card. But your deck is pretty good at dealing 20 damage, and every card that you bring in, it dilutes the power of your deck to deal 20 damage. And you don't want to do that too much, otherwise you lose efficiency, right? If you bring in all 15 cards, your ability to deal 20 damage becomes much worse. So you essentially want to pick your best. Also, like, a lot of the cards that deal damage can also kill creatures. So, like, you can use Lightning Bolts, Lightning Helix on, like, essential moments that you need to kill a creature. But you don't need to, like, bring in a swarm of cards. The way I would sideboard is this. Just take out Boros Charm, bring in Smash Just Metronus. Maybe if I'm on the draw, I want to be a little more controlling, and maybe I bring in 1 or 2 Path to Exile, but not more than that. I don't want to fall into the trap of being too high on removal and too low on pressure and losing the game because of it. Also, like, maybe you take out Eidolon of Great Revel if you're on the draw, because they can vomit their hand pretty early in the game. So essentially, what I want to say is, when you have decks like Burn or green-white auras, you don't want to take out a lot of cards, because if you do, you're essentially destroying your game plan, because the 60 cards is which the deck was designed to do, and if you do too much sideboarding, you're losing your power. So it doesn't become I want to win, it becomes I want to not lose. And usually in Magic, it's better to go for I want to win than I want to not lose. Unless you're playing control, your plan should be I want to win. So, like, for the transformational plan, I use that with decks that interact a lot. But if you're playing against something that doesn't interact, you might as well just stick with your original plan. Because, I mean, they're trying to do their stuff. You're trying to combo too, so bring in key pieces of disruption and try to combo faster. Don't know if we have time for more, but this is a question that I think it's very interesting. You're playing against Junt. You're playing against Reed Duke, so you know Reed is playing Junt. Your turn 1 was Goblin Guide attack. They played Stomping Grounds, Shock. Pass back to you. You have a land. You don't have any creatures in your hand. Should you attack with your Goblin Guide or not? Concede to Reed Duke. I think my time is up. Thank you all for participating. It was a lot of fun to present in this topic. I hope the scenarios weren't like too obvious, and I hope I could teach something. I didn't know exactly how to calibrate this presentation, but I hope I showed something cool. Thank you all.